Hello and welcome back. Let's dive right into shaping our front windshield today. Start off by bringing up the gizmo and choose the polyplane from the gear. Now set both cones to 10. Switch on the dynamic option and add some thickness. Disable post subdiv and set the flat subdiv to 3. Next up, bring back the gizmo, click on the gear, and select the soft deformer. Let's press accept to lock it in. We're going to have another go at the soft deformer, but this time, let's switch the view to the top. Now snap it to the side view and keep adjusting the silhouette until it feels right. Once you're happy with it, click on accept. Next, unmask the front faces and do a few rounds of polish by features. Let's blur the mask and do another polish by features. Now snap to the side view again and rotate it 25 degrees. Open the gear in the gizmo and choose Bend Curve. You'll want to modify the axis to Y and adjust it to match our reference image. Click accept once again to lock it in. Go back and select the deformer soft to make some small edits. Disable dynamic and choose extrude all polygons. Press flip followed by crease PG. Turn dynamic back on and slide thickness and flat subdiv to 0. Go ahead and do another round of polish by features. After that, adjust the crease level to 3. Now it's time to extrude the poly loop. Press Ctrl W to group visible. Let's make sure to uncrease the inner edge loop. Now we can run a polish by features to smooth the surface. We'll use the slice curve brush to redirect the edge flow. Next, select collapse edge from the ZBrush brush. Then we can delete any extra edges. Select slide edge to adjust the edges. Then we can press Ctrl W to group visible. Do a mirror and weld operation across the x-axis. Let's do a final polish by features. Bring up the gizmo, tap on the gear and select Deformer Soft. We're going to adjust the sides of the windshield a bit. Press accept when you're happy with the changes. Now let's bring the gizmo back and choose the polycube from the gear. Press Unify and then click Delete Loops. Next we can scale it along the Z-axis. Go ahead and mask and position it using the gizmo. Pick the slice curve brush and add in an edge loop. Now pick the Move Infinite Depth brush. Press Ctrl W to group visible. Let's add in a few more edge loops and reposition them using the Move Infinite Depth brush. Unmask the face and extrude it. Unmask half the model and rotate it along the Y-axis. Slice in an edge loop down the middle of the mesh and mask the bottom faces. Invert the mask and rotate them back. Do a little bit of cleanup on the end if needed. Switch to Insert for the edge action and Single Edge Loop for the target. Slide up the edges at the end to give it a bit of space. Let's go ahead and add 2 more edge loops at the bottom. Press Ctrl W to group visible. Alt tag the back 4 polys and extrude them out. Let's choose Transpose Polygroup Island to move them out. Rotate the unmasked faces a little. And add 2 edge loops with Insert Multiple Edge Loops. Alt tag the 9 polys and scale them so they're flush. Now we can alt tag the bottom 9 polys to scale them as well. Use the Move Infinite Depth brush to adjust the curve. Alt tag the 2 poly loops to extrude them out. Next we'll want to transpose the polygroup island. Scale it flat along the Z-axis. Move the gizmo to the back and rotate it outwards a bit. Let's grab the Move Infinite Depth brush to make some adjustments. Press QC50 and then Ctrl W to group visible. Let's choose Crease Edge Loop Partial and set the crease level to 2. Alright, pull up the gizmo again and select polyplane from the gear. Press Unify, then mask and position it using the gizmo. Extrude out a couple of edges and move the points into place. Let's choose Insert Single Edge Loop from the ZBrush. Turn Dynamic on and add some thickness. Let's disable Post Subdiv and set the Flat Subdiv to 3. Move the gizmo to the end and rotate the mesh up around 4 degrees. Unmask the back edge and move it down with the gizmo. Now let's extrude the mesh border. Select Move for the point action and by brush size for the target. Transpose the edge loop and move it down. Let's use the ZBrush to move individual points. We're almost halfway through these tutorial videos, so I think it's a good time to chat about the Kawasaki Ninja H2R. This motorcycle is an absolute monster. It's really built to deliver pure adrenaline on the racetrack. When you decide to model something, it's a great idea to do a bit of homework on it. Knowing the features or history of what you're modeling can give you a more complete understanding of what you're truly making. As someone who's been riding sport motorcycles for a large part of my life, I didn't choose this motorcycle solely for its insane looks. There are very specific reasons why I chose to model the H2R. Here are a few cool things about it. The first thing, it's packed with power. It's got a 998cc engine with a supercharger. That means it has insane acceleration and a mind-blowing top speed. Next, it's incredibly fast. The Ninja H2R is one of the fastest production motorcycles out there, pushing around 310 horsepower. This bike is all about the racetrack. It's not street legal, so you can let loose without worrying about traffic lights or speed limits. For this tutorial, the one thing we did change is the tires. I really did want to model in treads for the bike. Another cool thing about it, it's really light. The H2R is built with lightweight materials like carbon fiber and reinforced polymer, so it keeps the weight down while maintaining impressive strength and durability. It's kind of like a featherweight boxer with the power of a heavyweight. The Ninja H2R is a beautiful bike that's really designed for experienced riders. Let's get back to our model. Slide those points over a tad to make some room for the split. Inset these 9 faces and tap Alt to switch up the poly group. Unmask the poly group and run a polish by features. Center the gizmo and scale it into a circular shape. Let's use the outer white circle as a guide. Then split the point on the side. If the circle seems a bit off, we can make some adjustments. Unmask the poly group and run a polish by features again to clean things up. Now we can scale it up using the gizmo. Next, select Inset Polygroup Island and click to repeat. Now it's time to Q-mesh the polygroup island. Let's choose Slide Edge Loop Complete from the ZBrush brush. Unmask the four faces and move them over with the gizmo. Unmask the edges and position them with the gizmo too. Hold Alt to tag the polys and Q-mesh them up. Choose Transpose Polygroup Island and move them out with the gizmo. Let's set the angle with the Clip Curve brush. Let's rotate and scale a bit. Then control drag with the gizmo to extrude the unmasked polys. We will be repeating these steps a few more times until we get our desired shape model. Choose a line for the action, edge strip, and straight lines for the target with a specified curvature of 0. Unmask the rear faces and scale them along the Z-axis. Slide the top 2 points in and then align the side edges. Now Q-mesh a single poly, then Q-mesh the 2 side polys and the front poly as well. Let's slide those 2 edges down a bit. Go ahead and connect the 2 extrusions with Q-mesh, then slide the edges into place. Go ahead and repeat the same steps on the other side. Add in 3 edge loops down the middle. Select Q-mesh Polygroup Island and let's move the holes down a touch by holding the Shift key. Alt-click on the flat surface with the gizmo, then shift-click on the blue arrow to align the camera to the gizmo. Grab the Move Infinite Depth brush to adjust the corners. Slide the edges all the way to the corner, then weld the points together. Unmask the edges and move them over with the gizmo. Then we can alt tag the faces and pick Transpose a single poly to flatten them. Choose Transpose Polygroup Island. Use the Clip Curve brush to flatten the unmasked polys. Then we can adjust them with the Gizmo. Go ahead and choose Insert Single Edge Loop and delete the edge loop. Unmask the back faces and control drag with the Gizmo to extrude. Now we can scale and position them into place. Extrude again with the Gizmo and scale them outwards. Slide the top 2 points inward, and then align the side edges. Q-mesh a single poly, then Q-mesh the 2 side polys and the front poly as well. Let's continue to Q-mesh the corners to bridge the faces. Slide the edges to the corner and press weld points. Choose Move for the point action and Infinite Depth for the target. Slide the back 2 edges up a bit. Insert 3 edge loops and press Ctrl W to group visible. Now we can make some minor adjustments to the back. Let's add a couple of supporting edge loops using Insert Single Edge Loop. Now select Extrude All Polygons and press Flip to invert to normals. Choose Delete for the polygon action and Poly Loop for the target. Let's go ahead and press Auto Groups and then delete the hidden geometry. For the polygon and point actions, select Do Nothing. Now we can go ahead and pick Bridge for the edge action. By selecting Do Nothing for the other actions, we'll speed up the bridge operation. Press Ctrl W to group visible. Now we can switch to the Align Edge action to straighten any uneven surfaces. So I've had a second thought on these supporting edge loops. Let's erase them real quick. I want to see how well creasing handles this first. Alt tag these 5 polys and choose Transpose a single poly to straighten them out. Let's straighten these bottom faces too. Let's take a moment to discuss a little bit more about dynamic subdivisions and creasing. This is pretty important to understand, as it can greatly impact the smoothness and sharpness of our model. In ZBrush, creasing and dynamic subdivisions often work together to enhance the modeling process, especially for hard surface modeling. Dynamic subdivision is a non-destructive way to preview a model's subdivision levels without actually increasing the geometry. Combined with creasing, it provides several benefits. The first one is previewing subdivision levels. The dynamic subdivision feature allows you to preview your model's appearance at higher subdivision levels without actually increasing the poly count. This makes it easier to work on lower subdivision models while still being able to see the final smooth result. The second benefit is maintaining hard edges. Creasing helps maintain the definition of hard edges when using dynamic subdivision. Without creasing, the edges would become smooth and rounded. This is crucial when modeling hard surface objects where sharp edges are required. The next benefit is non-destructive workflow. Both creasing and dynamic subdivisions are non-destructive processes, meaning you can toggle them on and off without permanently changing the model's geometry. This flexibility allows for experimentation and changes at any stage of the modeling process. Next, we have efficient modeling. Creasing combined with dynamic subdivision allows you to work on complex models efficiently. You can maintain a lower poly count for easier manipulation and faster performance while still achieving high resolution results. Next, we have improved topology. Creasing can help guide the flow of geometry during dynamic subdivision, resulting in cleaner, more efficient topology. Another benefit is better visual clarity. Creased edges provide better visual clarity when previewing your model in dynamic subdivision mode. This can make it easier to understand the form and structure of your model and identify any potential issues. One of the biggest benefits is it reduces the need for support loops. Creasing reduces the need for adding supporting edge loops to maintain sharp edges during subdivisions, which can help to keep your poly count down and your topology cleaner. But remember, this often depends on the part. Sometimes you'll skip creasing and stick to supporting edge loops, other times you'll use both. The combination of creasing with dynamic subdivision in ZBrush is so powerful for 3D artists, offering a flexible, efficient, and non-destructive workflow, particularly for hard surface modeling.